What is up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're doing well today. Got a review for you. Let's get into it. All right, guys, really excited to do this review. This one dropped in 2023. Couldn't quite swing it at the time, but since then, Blade HQ had their anniversary sale. This thing was like half off. It was such a good deal. Let's take a look at the Chaves Redemption 229 Kickstop. Really excited to get into this one today. What we're going to do is we're going to do some size comparison, profile comparison. We'll weigh the knife, and then we'll jump into it. Here it is against the Migron Kyric. I'm not quite sure how you say that, and the Civivi Amorite. And as you can see here, this one is definitely a full-size knife. It is dwarfing that Migron. Let me go ahead and move that out of the way. We'll bring in your Spyderco Para 3, which is also very similar to your Rat 2. And we'll hang on to the Amorite for thickness profile, and we'll bring in the Shaman, which is also a full-size knife. And you can see that the Redemption is just slightly longer in blade length. I'm going to call that even. It looks pretty even now that I got them lined up at the pivot. So very close, very comparable. Let's move that Para 3 out of the way, guys, and check out the thickness on this one. It feels fairly chunky, and it is. It is thicker than the Amorite, and we'll compare it to the Shaman. And you can see there, it is also thicker than the Shaman. So full-sized, also a very thick knife. And then here you go for your pocket closed profile position. Rides very similar to the Shaman, a little bit more shallow. With that pocket clip, it is actually done pretty well. It's probably about that much versus the Shaman having that much, but obviously it's not going to be able to compete with the Amorite as far as how it feels or how it goes into the pocket. This one here, gotta be 6 ounces. Gotta be full titanium, thick scales, pretty big knife. Almost 7, 6.7 ounces. I knew it was at least 6. I am not surprised by that weight at all. This is not for the faint of heart. It is a thicker knife, big knife, weighty knife, all the stuff about the knife. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to kick it down to the garage, get the cut test done, and then we'll jump back up here and talk about it. We are in the garage. Woo! That kickstop is a lot of fun, guys. We got a factory fresh edge here from Riot. We're going to take it through the old magazine catalog paper here. I mean, is anyone truly surprised by that? But we'll see what that'll look like here in just a minute as I try to get some of that debris out of here. I'm not going to do any extensive cutting. This, again, hopefully I mentioned it at the table, just to demonstrate what the factory edge started out like, how it performs in certain types of cutting, and how it feels ergonomically. This is not, I repeat, not an edge retention test. Let's check it on the table. Actually, I'm going to use all the power in the belly here. So, got hung up on, that could be the board, could be me. Could be just not quite enough belly to get through that. Okay. Didn't penetrate the denim, so lots of bite there. What is it get? It's like just the tiniest little piece. I'm like, man, it's kind of irritating me that I can't quite get to it. I think that's good enough to demonstrate. It's got a little bit of belly, but it's not really a tabletop cutter. It did fine with that zip tie. We have, I'm going to go through the non-tape side. Single ply here. Good old Amazon box, if you saw by the tape. Whoa, literally no effort. Hand relaxed. Look at that, man. Look at that. What I'm feeling is the pocket clip, and, you know, it is a Chaves, so it's not super, super chamfered. And ironically, on the index finger right here, I'm kind of feeling, I'm not sure if it's the lock bar screw. Yeah, it's definitely the lock bar screw. I'm feeling that. This big old aggressive jimping on the spine actually works really good. It's comfortable, has enough bite for me, no issues whatsoever. I'm just gonna check the tip out, see how pokey it is. So, looks like I missed there, but it could have been that little dent on the board. Let's run it through one more time. Yeah, it's getting all the way through. Definitely getting all the way through. We're about to get to the tape, so I'm going to skip that and save that for one of my budget knives. Let's just check. Again, not a super aggressive or in-depth cut test because I'm not trying to do edge retention here. I just want to get a sense of what I'm feeling, and I'll talk about some of that up at the desk. Yeah, no surprise there. M390 Riot, I think they do a pretty good heat treat, as I totally whiffed on that paper there. But, everything feels good when you're not hitting the sharpening tool and you're staying in the belly of the knife. Yeah, really nice, guys. Hair popping. No issues whatsoever. Let's kick it back up to the desk. All right, so that was the cut down from the garage, guys. We're going to talk about ergos first and foremost. All in all, it's a fairly comfortable knife. What I did notice when I was cutting was I did feel here, this is, even though it's a big knife, the corner is very sharp on here, so it does dig into the palm. And ironically, when I was holding and squeezing both with the cardboard and trying to cut, and actually it looks like there's still a little bit of tape on here from something, I was feeling the head of that lock bar insert screw right on the finger there. That's what it was that I was feeling. I'm not feeling too much else. It is not super chamfered. It does have pretty hard edges. So if you're going to be doing a lot of cutting, truth be told, I think you would really feel it after a little while. I don't know that it would bother you with gloves, but any Chaves I've ever handled has not been super comfortable. Their aesthetic is their squared off kind of a chunky knife. That's really what their MO has been for me, kind of big bruisers. Even the small ones still feel really chunky, very hand filling. If you have a small hand, medium hand even, I'd probably say this is not for you. You definitely, for this particular model, would enjoy this more with larger hands. Of course, if you like the bigger knives, then this will work for you. And again, it does have a ton of weight on it. The action on here is different from what you will find from most knives, and we'll cover that more in depth in the disassembly to show that to you. But the way this is working, you do have your ceramic bearings in the pivot, 3/16, and I believe, I can't remember, 3/16, 1/16, I remember, for your skiffs. But check the disassembly video to make sure that that's right. I'm not even going to hold my editor to that. But the reason I say that it's unique, you see, it doesn't, even though it's a heavy blade, it doesn't drop like a guillotine, and that's the way that this engages with that kickstop. Even though this is on bearings, the kickstop is running on phosphor bronze washers, and the stop pin is integrated. So when you see the movement here, if you follow the piece along, you can see how it tucks right there where it stops. It has reached the end of its travel path. So that stop pin that's in that piece for the kickstop flipper tab is what stops the blade completely. So it is locked out from the lock bar, and then the stop pin, the way that it kind of drops down into the blade, and you'll see that in the disassembly, is what keeps that from moving. And then when you disengage it, it starts to engage with the kickstop flipper tab, and then that's what's kind of keeping it from being a guillotine and falling and dropping. But the action is smooth. So feedback wise, the only thing that I feel is when it's disengaged, that flipper tab kind of jiggles around, and the safest way I can think to demonstrate that is to hold it like this. So there's nothing holding that flipper tab in place. It's just being sandwiched with pretty good tolerances, I'll say, in between the scales with the phosphor bronze washer. So it's being sandwiched down in here, and that's what's keeping it from having a bunch of play when it's locked out. It's because it's acting as the stop pin, so the detent ball now holding the blade in place is what's sandwiching it from its max travel position. So no jiggling when it's closed, or when it's open. It's just you do kind of hear it slopping around in there when you open and close it. So let's listen to the sounds. Hopefully one of these microphones can pick it up. So hopefully you heard that clicking. It does make it for a unique experience, but it is going to be different from just your average frame lock. You're going to have that little extra click that happens on the drop, and you can sort of hear it hit when it comes around to the stop pin. It has a unique opening sound. So let me just demonstrate that without focusing on the other sound, just to make sure that I captured it. Oops. So hopefully you were able to hear that. I don't know why you would buy a Chaves with as much attitude as this knife has if you were offended by the skull pocket clip, but if you are, it does come with the plain Jane pocket clip. For me, that's part of the design aesthetic that Chaveses are representing. It's this big, bulky, chunky knife. You know, lots of attitude, sharp, hard edges. It's just got a lot of attitude about it as far as like the design that they're going for here. And that's kind of where the skull clip comes into play. And I get it. Some people may think, you know, for this type of quality knife with these type of materials, maybe it makes it look kind of like a gas station knife. And I understand that. But if you know, you know, and you understand what it is that you're seeing here, just like it does with any other, you know, designer purses, if you're talking about cars, you know, when you see a certain emblem on a vehicle, you just kind of know what it represents. And I feel like that's kind of the same here with this particular knife. So that's the best way I can think to explain it. The knife was fine overall, you know, for, I would say for long periods of cutting, I'd probably go grab my shaman if I was cutting down that something that needed a lot, like a big box, something that was maybe housing like a TV, and you need to break it down for your recycling. The shaman's going to be much more comfortable to spend that much time cutting with. This will be just fine though, just to break down a package from Amazon to throw it in your recycling. It's going to do just fine. It's going to do fine for your other cutting tasks. It is very thin and slicey. Riot did a fantastic job with this factory edge on the M390. It went through the material great. The hollow grind sliced through it. You got compound ground blade here, so you got a full flat out on the tip to help keep that strength. It had a very acute pokey tip, and the swedge helps to make sure it minimizes the drag. So even though the hollow ground does come out to the thickest point of the blade, that swedge just makes sure that as it passes through the material, if the material wraps around, that it's going to be able to make it through that with no issues whatsoever. All in all, pretty much like the experience of the other Chaveses that I have owned in the past and reviewed on this channel, and I'll make sure to link those up at the top if you're interested in that. That is pretty much going to be my review for this. Now, as far as the price point on this one, it is very expensive full priced, and I don't know if it'll go back to that. I know that it was a weekend sale going on at Blade HQ, and you know, being like half off of the asking price is kind of crazy that it was that low, which is why I grabbed it, because I personally wouldn't have paid the asking price on this even with the kickstop mechanism. Kickstop mechanism is cool, but not to the point where I felt like it was worth the price of admission. So that's just me personally. You know, you're starting to approach custom mid-techs like McNeese, Chris Reeves. You know, those are pricey, but this was kind of, you know, this is production, Riot production approaching that price point. To me, that seemed steep, but half of that, I think this is phenomenal value. I think there's a lot of quality here. I like the mechanism. It makes it very unique and stands out from the rest. I love how it's super clean when open. Like there's no thumb studs here, keeping it very clean on the blade, nothing interrupting the cutting path. And then you don't see the flipper tab at all when it's open. So a very cool, unique piece that I was excited and glad to get at a sale price, I guess is the best way that I can put that. If this was still out of range at about half of the asking price that it originally came out with, I would say if you want something premium, definitely stop and check out Kunmu. They do a lot of really nice models. They have, you know, frame locks, crossbar locks that they offer both in drop point and sheep's foot variants, depending on what your preference is. They do an excellent heat treat. They've been gaining great reputation within the community because of their commitment to the quality and the heat treat. They typically come with multi-row ceramic bearings, and it's caged, not stamped, so they're in a full housed washer, making the action super smooth. No feedback coming back at all, opening and closing, just really glassy feeling. Good factory edges. I don't hear a lot of people complaining too much about them. The ergos on them are nice, and then they do a couple of different finishes. What you do get here, you can get titanium, you can get micarta, and I think Blade HQ had like an exclusive JG10 with a blacked out blade if you wanted to go that route. If the sale was still going, I don't think it will be by the time this video hits, because I'm staged way out until April and it's March 22nd. So, you know, this is going to be way out. I think that's pretty much everything that I can think of. Oh, we didn't do the spine whack test on this one. I imagine even though it does have the kickstop system on here, yeah, it should be fine because it's still a frame lock. So we'll do our traditional 3 imitation accidental spine whacking, because I won't be batoning with a folder ever on this channel. So there you go. We got our 3 out of the way, passed with no issues, flying colors, whatever. You know, not surprised. I'm not surprised. I feel like, you know, the frame lock is probably the one that I worry about the least, but you can get one that does have early engagement, maybe has oil on the lock bar interface, bad, you know, engagement geometry. So it can happen, but I worry least about these ones coming out of Riyadh. The ones that I've tested, you know, since I've been doing this, do very well. So no concerns at all. If you have any questions about this particular one or anything you'd like to know about, make sure you leave that down in the comments. While you're there, feel free to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to make sure that you're subscribed and that notification bell is turned on for you. Shout out to everyone that watched to this point. It helps the algorithm. The links are down below. That helps the channel as well. And special thank you to all channel members. I appreciate that extra support that you give. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.